I want to tell you about Rick and Diane. Rick was 62, VP of sales at a company he'd given 28 years to, ready to retire, emotionally, physically done, with $2.4 million in his 401k and a vision of a slower, freer life he could practically taste. Diane was 60, a principal in the Florida public school system, sharp, dedicated, and not in any hurry to stop working. She loved what she did, but she also knew a significant financial opportunity was within reach if they played it right. They came to see me not because they were in crisis, but because they were at a crossroads. Rick was ready to go, and Diane wasn't going anywhere just yet. And they wanted a real plan behind them, not just a feeling. Here's what we found. At Lifecraft, we build every retirement plan around a framework we created called Wealth Map. 3 things that every plan must get right. The M means how you'll pay for retirement, income sources, savings, investments. The A, aspirations, what your retirement actually looks like and what it genuinely costs. The P, protection, defending the plan against what can quietly derail it. Might be market volatility, inflation, healthcare, longevity. I always start with aspirations because the numbers only mean something once we know what they're supposed to support. So that's exactly where we began with Rick and Diane. Before we touched a single account statement, I asked them to dream out loud. Well, Rick's vision was vivid. Travel was at the center of it, real travel. Extended international trips, river cruises through Europe, Japan, Southeast Asia. When we priced it honestly, quality flights, quality accommodations, real experiences, Rick's travel vision was running $30,000 to $40,000 per year. That's a number that needs to be planned for deliberately, not hoped for. They wanted to stay in their home, 8 years left on their mortgage, about $1,800 a month, non-negotiable. And Diane wanted to fund a college savings account for their first grandchild. Modest annually, but emotionally important. Add everyday living expenses, and Rick and Diane's full retirement lifestyle came to approximately $12,000 to $13,000 a month, around $150,000 a year. That's their real number, not a generic percentage, their number for their life. Now we could look at the other side of the equation and ask the question that actually matters. Does your income map support your life map? Well, Rick's picture was straightforward. $2.4 million in his 401k, the primary engine. His Social Security at 62 would have been around $2,200 a month, but wait until 67 and that climbs to approximately $3,100 a month. Nearly $11,000 a year in additional lifetime income just for waiting a few years. Worth building a strategy around. Now, Diane's situation is where the plan got genuinely exciting. As a Florida public school principal, Diane is a member of the Florida retirement system, and at 60, she became eligible for something called the Deferred Retirement Option Program, DROP. Here's how it works. Diane could formally elect retirement within the FRS system while continuing to work as a principal for up to 5 years. During that entire window, her monthly pension payments flow directly into a dedicated DROP investment account, accumulating and growing while she continues drawing her full regular paycheck. But Diane wasn't in a hurry. She loved her work. So rather than treating DROP as a 5-year sprint to the exit, we looked at it differently. What if Diane opted in at 60, rode it all the way to 65? 5 full years of pension contributions building in that account. 5 full years of her regular salary, and at 65, she exits right on time for Medicare. No coverage gap, a perfectly timed, clean separation. Projected over that full window, Diane's DROP account would grow to approximately $300,000 on top of her existing $180,000 in her 403b. Nearly $500,000 in additional assets built entirely from a benefit she already had. And her FRS pension at 65? Over $4,000 a month for life. Guaranteed, untouchable by any market downturn. When Rick saw that laid out in front of him, the conversation completely changed. He stopped seeing Diane's continued work as a delay, and he started seeing it as one of the most valuable financial decisions they could make. Her staying wasn't holding them back. Her staying was building their retirement. And here's the part of the story I love most, because it reframes what most people think of as the waiting years. Rick retired at 62, and Diane kept working. But Diane still had her summers off and her winter breaks. And she had a husband who was completely free and loved planning every detail. So that's exactly what they did. Portugal one summer, Japan over the winter break, a river cruise through the Swiss Alps the following summer. The big trips they'd always talked about happening now while they were healthy and energized, fitting perfectly around Diane's school calendar. Their retirement didn't begin the day Rick stopped working. It began the day they had a plan. What changed at 65 was simply that Diane joined him full-time and they stepped into full retirement together. The P in Wealth Map, protection, is about making sure the plan survives contact with the real world. 3 conversations mattered most for Rick and Diane. First, healthcare. Rick's employer coverage ended the day he retired. The solution was simple and straightforward. While Diane was still working, Rick enrolled in her school district health plan, a clean, cost-effective bridge straight to Medicare at 65, for both of them arriving together. Second, sequence of returns risk. This is one of the most underappreciated dangers in retirement. The risk that drawing income from your portfolio during a market downturn in the early years can permanently impair its long-term performance in ways that are very hard to recover from. Our solution? We invested Rick's portfolio in our all-weather moderate allocation, a strategy built to grow during strong markets but designed to adapt and protect against significant drawdowns when conditions deteriorate. Rather than leaving Rick exposed at exactly the moment he was beginning to draw income, we positioned his assets to weather the inevitable storms without forcing him to sell at the worst possible times. Alongside that, a short-term runway fund from their taxable savings covered Rick's near-term income needs, keeping the core portfolio intact and giving the all-weather strategy the room it needed to do its job. Third, long-term care. At 60 and 62 and both in good health, that's the right moment. Coverage is still plausible and they're still insurable. We had that conversation, walked through their options, and they made an informed decision together. Here's what happened when we presented all of this. Diane cried, not from sadness, from relief. She said, "I didn't realize we actually had a plan. I thought we were just guessing." And Rick put his hand on the table and said, "Okay, now I feel like we can actually do this." Rick retired 4 months later. The following summer they were in Portugal, and 5 years after that, Diane walked out of her school for the last time with a $300,000 drop account, a pension paying over $4,000 a month for life, and Medicare starting on day one. They didn't need to be extraordinary. They needed to be coordinated. That's Wealth Map. If any part of Rick and Diane's story sounds familiar, if you're on different timelines, if the retirement conversation keeps circling without landing, or if you suspect there are benefits inside your plan you haven't fully explored, we'd love to talk. At Lifecraft Wealth Management, we work with people in their late 50s and early 60s who have built meaningful savings over a career and want to make sure they get the transition right. A conversation costs nothing, but a plan changes everything. I'm Jose Martin, Certified Financial Planner Professional and founder of Lifecraft Wealth Management. The link to schedule a complimentary conversation is right below. I'll see you next Thursday for our next Real Talk, and tomorrow for something a little lighter to close out the week. Till then, wishing you love, joy, health, and prosperity.